Season 3, No More Nice. Series continues. This episode is entitled The Silence After Overexplaining. What happens when we stop overexplaining ourselves? And we stop overexplaining ourselves because we're not angry. We're not shutting down. We're no longer caring about what people think about us. But it's because we're no longer emotionally negotiating our worth through constant clarification, over-explaining, over-communicating, or trying to make everyone around us understand us. Because some of us are so focused on being understood that we stop listening to ourselves. And maybe this is why silence can feel emotionally uncomfortable for people who learn to over-explain because they were seeking a connection. And sometimes it's seeking a connection to people we were never meant to be connected to. So today we're talking about self-trust, discernment, emotional negotiation, nervous system fatigue, hypervigilance, the pressure to constantly explain ourselves, and learning how to remain grounded in our truth and our purpose, even when everyone else does not fully understand us. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised by an incredible single mom who is my biggest fan and my BFF, my bestie, my best friend for real. I am a celebrity certified personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and sports and entertainment media host. I was born in Fort Worth, raised in Dallas, Texas, and built in Los Angeles, California, the city of angels. I trained at Juilliard in New York City with School of American Ballet, becoming the world's only 3-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion, appearing in over 450 fitness DVDs. The first of those 450 DVDs was led by celebrity trainer and the GOAT, Gunnar Peterson, known for training the Kardashian family. As a personal trainer and certified personal trainer, as a celebrity trainer myself, I've worked with Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Batman, Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, Amber Riley of Glee, Dancing with the Stars, and The Masked Singer champion. And as a sports and entertainment media host, I've had the joy of interviewing Richard Branson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, Tyler Perry, and Tiana Taylor, to name a few. I share my story not to toot my own horn, but to honor the millions of sacrifices my mom planted in me so that I could blossom into the woman I am still becoming. So if you're listening at home, pull up a real chair. If you're listening online, pull up a digital chair and grab yourself some hot herbal tea, and welcome to my cozy digital home of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2TC8, H.E.R Circle. H.E.R standing for high-performing, empowered women who are ready to thrive. It is a 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro-living transformations. So I am overjoyed that you are here, because this is where we explore life, spirit, mind, and body through lived experiences and intentional growth. So join me daily for just 15 minutes twice a day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central, because this is your daily pause for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, for allowing grace in this space, whatever space you're in, whatever season you're in, and for intentional decision making. Each episode, my offer to you is 3 keys and 1 reflective question. My prayer and my hope is that the 3 keys are something that is practical for us, something grounded, and something we could sit with and carry with us throughout our day. So let's take a breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready. Let's get set. And let's grow. One thing I am beginning to realize is that some of us become emotionally exhausted when we try to make sure everyone around us understands us. We start over-explaining, we over-clarify, we over-communicate, emotionally trying to manage perception and trying to explain our heart, trying to explain our intentions, trying to explain our boundaries, trying to explain our healing journey, and trying to explain why something hurts us. And that is laborious and exhausting. And what feels important here is realizing that over-explaining is not always communication. Sometimes it's emotional negotiation. Sometimes it's the nervous system attempting to secure safety through understanding. Because we think if people understand us, maybe they won't reject us, maybe they won't belittle us, maybe they won't withdraw, maybe they won't try to demean us and undervalue who we are and who we're called to be. And maybe they won't disconnect, and maybe they won't misunderstand us, and maybe they won't leave. But sometimes people need to leave. And for many emotionally agreeable people, understanding became emotionally tied to belonging. And that's where we go a little bit deeper, because some of us have learned to explain ourselves constantly because we fear disconnection more than the exhaustion we were feeling. And maybe this is why silence can feel emotionally unsafe, because silence removes our ability to emotionally manage perception. No clarification, no over-explaining, no emotional performance, no over-justifying, just truth. And that could feel incredibly vulnerable for people who learn to survive relationships through emotional oversharing and over-communicating. And what's becoming clear to me in this season, in this space that I'm in, is that healing sometimes requires learning how to tolerate being misunderstood without abandoning ourselves. And that's important, because not everyone who misunderstands us is owed endless emotional access to us. And constantly explaining ourselves and slowly disconnecting us from our own selves and from our own discernment. Because some of us become so focused on being understood that we stop listening to ourselves and our voice and advocating for ourselves. And that's the part that many people don't talk about. The emotional fatigue, the nervous system exhaustion, the constant emotional anticipation, the physiological thing that it does to our body. And reading people's reactions and reading their tone and reading their silence and reading when their energy shifts and trying to overcorrect perception before rejection happens is exhausting. And that's not simply communication, that's hypervigilance, and the body feels it. The body carries the stress of chronic emotionally monitoring people and ourselves. Sometimes through mental exhaustion, brain fog, shallow breathing, muscle tension, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, emotional fatigue, digestive issues, or constantly feeling emotionally on. Because the nervous system was never designed to permanently live in emotional anticipation. And maybe this is why peace can initially feel uncomfortable, because when the body becomes familiar with emotional monitoring, stillness can feel unfamiliar. That realization shifted something for me, because a healing journey is not only learning how to communicate differently, healing is learning how to trust ourselves again, trust our discernment, trust our intuition, trust our boundaries, trust our inner knowing without constantly needing external validation to confirm what we already feel internally, what our body already knows, what our spirit already knows. And maybe that's the deeper healing happening in this season. It is for me. And it's not that I am cold or hard or bitter or angry. It's not that I'm becoming emotionally detached. And I'm certainly not cold. And I'm becoming grounded enough to stop emotionally negotiating my worth. And that takes practice, because some of us were taught how to preserve connection before we were taught how to preserve our peace. And maybe this is why our healing journey can initially feel quiet and isolating, because once we stop over-explaining, we begin listening again, listening to what our bodies need, listening to our emotions, listening to our intuition, listening to our boundaries, listening to when we really feel exhausted, listening to our peace, and listening to ourselves. Which brings me to the 3 keys. Over-explaining is not always communication. Sometimes it is emotional negotiation rooted in the fear of a potential disconnect or a disconnection that we see coming, misunderstanding, rejection, or abandonment. And when the nervous system associates understanding with emotional safety, many people, including myself, unconsciously begin to over-communicate in order to preserve what we perceive is belonging into a group, whether that's in real spaces or digital spaces, which means emotional exhaustion may not always come from doing too much physically. Sometimes it comes from constantly trying to emotionally manage perception, which brings me to key number 2. The body often experiences chronic emotionally monitoring as stress. Hypervigilance, emotional anticipation, overanalyzing reactions, and constantly preparing for emotional shifts can gradually create nervous system fatigue, sometimes through anxiety, sometimes through shallow breathing, mental exhaustion, sleep disruption, digestive issues, muscle tension, or emotional depletion, because the body was never designed to permanently remain in emotional surveillance mode all the time, 24/7, when you're around people that you think are your friends, when really they are just being friendly and transactional and seeing what they could extract from you. Which brings me to key number 3. Healing sometimes requires learning how to tolerate being misunderstood and being misdiagnosed for who your true character is without abandoning ourselves. And for many of us, this may be the first season where we are learning how to trust our discernment, trust our boundaries, trust our intuition, and trust our internal knowing without constantly needing external validation to confirm or affirm our worth. That's where self-trust begins rebuilding. So our one reflection question for today is, where in my life have I been over-explaining, over-clarifying, emotionally negotiating, or constantly trying to manage perception in order to maintain connection, approval, understanding, or belonging? So before you go, I just want to say thank you truly for sharing this time with me. It has been an honor to sit with you in this space and praying for more grace in whatever space you're in, whatever season you're in. So let's quickly revisit today's 3 keys. Key number 1, over-explaining ourselves is not always communication. Sometimes it is emotional negotiation rooted in the fear of the disconnect we see coming. We see it coming, and so we start trying to negotiate our way out of it. Key number 2, the body often experiences chronic emotional monitoring as stress and nervous system fatigue. And that fatigue can look many different ways. Key number 3, healing sometimes requires learning how to tolerate being mislabeled, misunderstood. Because if you're being mislabeled or misunderstood, that is probably not the digital environment you need to be in, whether it's online, whether it's in group text, or in real life. Because one thing we don't want to do is abandon ourselves. So key number 3, healing sometimes requires learning how to tolerate being misunderstood without abandoning ourselves. And our one reflection question for today: where in my life have I been over-explaining, over-clarifying, emotionally negotiating, or constantly trying to manage someone else's perception in order to maintain connection, whether that connection is real life or digital spaces, approval, understanding, or belonging? If today's episode offered you clarity, grounding, or a pause for a cause you didn't know you needed, or if there's anything that I've shared today that pricked your heart or lit a spark, please subscribe. Share this with someone you care about and leave a comment so that this isn't a monologue, but a dialogue. And please leave a 5-star rating if you feel led, or send me a text because it helps the space to grow and reach others. Now let's close with one breath. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. Central. This is Cut to the Chase at 8. C2TC8, H.E.R Circle for high-performing, empowered women ready to thrive. Circle with me, Madison Samone Chase. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready, set, grow, and go, and be great. Blessing to you and yours. Until tomorrow.